Hey guys, welcome to Joe Ciminera Presents. I'm Joe Ciminera. Today we're going to get started talking a little bit about making money and being successful in the film industry in times of trouble. Um, we're in some pretty crazy times right now for filmmakers, especially. So I'd like to discuss a little bit, see if I can get you motivated to know and understand that there's still a ton of opportunity to make money in this industry. Flourish with your brand, get your stuff out there to be seen, and don't do what everybody is saying, which is basically stay put. So there's a lot of things that you can do by yourself to film and start filming and start distributing and stuff like that. So I got an interesting call from a friend of mine over in the UK who is a film buyer, and they buy probably about 100 titles a month through various different independent films. I had a very good conversation with him to talk to him about what he thinks would be a good buy. I mean, what are buyers looking for right now that filmmakers can maybe get motivated to make? Is it comedy? Is it romantic? This and horror? Is it psychological thriller? Is it documentary? And he did state that it is documentaries. Documentaries are flying off the shelves. They're being purchased in record numbers. I don't know why, but any documentary right now is going to do very well. So, what does that mean to a filmmaker who might be thinking, hey, I don't have access to a crew, I don't have access to actors and actresses, I don't have access to anyone to help me put this documentary together? Well, the reality is that you do have access to editors. They're all over the internet, and many of them are working outside of your country so that you can get the most affordable rates possible. Maybe you're a talented editor too. Maybe you're just an actor or actress saying, I got to do something to get paid. I mean, I haven't had any work. What do I do as an actor? How do I survive? How do I feed my family? How do I excel in the craft? And, I mentioned this in prior videos, to take the bull by the horns and start doing the stuff that you wouldn't normally do just to make it. And this is definitely one of them. You could put together a documentary relatively cheap, fast, and with the help of a lot of stock footage and the fact that whoever you want in your documentary could basically send you video files that can be filmed with their phone and stuff like that. So I've made two of them while this whole lockdown, this last 60 days that this lockdown is in place. So I am definitely proof in the pudding that you could make it and get it distributed. I get emails, and it seems like the tone of the emails are definitely people that are worried. They're asking questions like, what would you do? What is possible? Do you think that the industry is going to come back? Absolutely, the industry is going to come back. It's starting to come back now. They're just, obviously, people are just not in large circles right now. So basically, that leads you to be the chief cook and bottle washer and start filming. But the reality is it will get back. I don't know if it'll get back as quickly as people want it to, but do you need it to get back to stay in this industry and survive and keep going? I think you need to think about being very creative, my friends, being creative and taking your destiny in your own hands, getting motivated. And even if you've had a thought in your brain, just a wild, crazy thought that, hey, I'm not a film director, hey, I'm not a producer, I'm not a writer, but I always did have this idea of this certain horror short that I always wanted to do. Or I always had this documentary because I can't stand how people treat animals. Or maybe I want to make my voice heard in another direction. Maybe I'm just a real funny person and I can write a romantic comedy like no one's business. Well, I think you better start taking that pen to paper and doing it right now. I don't think that you should ever wait for anyone to say, okay, we are now opening up the world, so now you can go and do what it is you do what it is you love, and do what it is you do best. That is just a crazy way of thinking, and that's called putting the self-control back into somebody else's hand. So learn to take the destiny inside of your own hands. Start filmmaking, and filmmaking now. And who cares if you never acted in your life? And who cares if I'm not an editor or I'm not this? Start to collaborate with incredible filmmakers and people who do great things with film all over film groups. Not only Facebook groups, but there's other film groups that are out there that you can join. And they're all talking right now. Everybody wants to lend their hand in their talents to some sort of a project. So if you're thinking to yourself and you're saying, okay, hey, I really got to get this picture done, but I don't know anything about editing it. And I don't think that you should start to learn it now. Editing is one of those things where it's a special craft. And unless you think you're going to dive into it 110%, I don't necessarily say get a crash course in the next week, a week or two, and you're going to produce a great product. So what I would suggest is maybe if you're not an editor, but you're everything else, pay an editor a couple of bucks. Look, everybody's looking for some kind of work right now. And everything is, negotiations are totally on the table. Day rates, what you were getting, 2 months ago, that stuff is out the window. And everybody knows it. And every filmmaker or professional that doesn't admit to it is just really lying to themselves. It's basically stubborn. Because if you're not going to adjust your day rate, and I've done it myself, to keep the blood flowing, that's what it's about. And I mean, I talk to people all day long that they're just looking for work, and we're trying to, strategically map out getting them work to finish certain film projects and stuff like that. So I think it's a great time to network. I think it's a great time to, introduce yourself to people out there and maybe get involved with an online crew, because this could turn into online movie filming and making. And you know what? It has already begun. I've seen such incredible stuff come out of the works of independent filmmakers with short videos, especially about the quarantine, that just blew my mind of the creativeness. And you know what? They filmed it with their own camera. Most of the time it was their cell phone. They edited themselves most of the time. They put the music in there. Just really creative piece. And it goes to show you really when the clock stops and people have to sit and realize themselves and say, we have to change with the world. We have to change with the times. Things start to suddenly open up. Most people don't want to go back to that old way of doing things. I mean, before this, would you ever think that you had to take on this many responsibilities? No, you would have to pay an editor. You'd have to get a certain budget. Maybe the budget in your head was $10,000, and it took a little bit of legwork to try to even raise $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, and you were lucky if you got that. But now, since the whole world has changed, maybe you could now produce that same movie that you wanted to do for $2,000 or $1,500. So you have to look at the math, and you have to look at the situation. You have to adapt to what's going on. And I think that that's what separates the strong-willed people from the followers of the world. And if you're strong-willed, you know that you can make your mark no matter what happens around you. And I would love to see more filmmakers get motivated and start making the pictures that they want to make, leaving aside the fact that you might need 10 or 20 people on set. That's not going to happen. So you could be creative and try to think of a way to make it work where you don't need to have, or you break the social distancing rules and regulations at this point in time. So going back to the documentaries, everyone has something that they believe passionately about. It could be the sugar content that's in just about everything we eat. People might be concerned about the water that people are drinking, the environment, the people, government. Whatever it is, the topic that really turns your blood when you hear something not going the way you want it to, now's the time to speak out. Now's the time to make that documentary. I'm too old, I'm too short. I'm not in the industry, I am. It doesn't matter. Start making it. If you've never done it before, pick it up. Some of the most creative people that have ever made films never made a film before in their life. They got lucky with the first one they did because they were skilled. They found a skill that they didn't think that they had, and it erupted. It erupted and it manifested itself into something that everybody likes. So I challenge everyone to really get into fulfilling your hopes and dreams in the film industry and taking the steps forward. Now, as far as who might want to buy this thing and make money off your project, documentaries are hot right now. There's a lot of film festivals and film buying things, and even Cannes. Everything's going to be virtual. Everything's going to be video on. At least for the next 6 months, my guess is they're not going to be gathering the way that they used to. And it sucks. I'm going to tell you that I am a big fan of the American film market, and I like to park my ass there every year. I love it. You meet some old friends, you make new ones. It's an incredible networking opportunity, and the fact of the matter is it's probably not going to happen this year. And that's sad, but life still goes on. So, there is a way to still get that booklet that all the film buyers look at and on new films and stuff like that. And I think that there's a lot of great opportunity, but you have to take the first steps. Don't wait for nothing. I mean, often too many people just wait. They wait and they think they put their faith in people that they don't know. That's the funny part about the film industry. When I talk to filmmakers online, they're waiting for film commissions to get everybody out of the mess and try to get everybody working. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe they might come up with one or two things that might help everybody out, but I would never wait for somebody else to try to fix this mess. I was in the middle of like 8 different projects when this happened, 8 of them. And half of them had the funding ripped out right from under me. Do you stop what you're doing? No, you have to get creative and go in a different direction. Because everybody's still breathing and the sunshine is still coming out every day. So, you really just have to keep going. You have no choice. But I can really say that I think the documentary is really a great way to go. It's one of the things that you can do to get, really creative. I saw this horror film the other day someone sent me. It was a 4-minute short. And it was incredible. And each of the scenes were filmed in a different location by someone else. Some use their cell phone, some of them use like DSLR and stuff like that. But the way this was put together, it like reminded me of the old stories, like when my family came over from Europe and they said, yeah, at the end of the day, we all sat at a table and we all shared food. Someone brought meat, someone brought pasta, someone brought wine, and someone brought the dessert, and everybody had a little bit of what was on the table. And I think that's a lot about what filmmaking is at this point in time. It's about getting a little bit from every filmmaker to create something that's really can be enjoyable. There are also many different apps and platforms on TV, Crackle and Hulu, and they're becoming some interesting independent players and taking some independent films into consideration. And YouTube is always a great place to, try to grow your audience. The thing is trying to grow your audience and trying to know your audience. Those two things are also important. So when you're thinking about, hey, yeah, okay, I'm going to do a documentary, well, then you also need to know who your audience is going to be, right? So if you're doing a documentary about food, let's just say, harmful sugars and cereals and just about everything these kids eat right now, you don't want to have to start to think about your audience might be people who love electronics. So, it sounds like it's real simple, and the example I gave might sound like I'm taking your intelligence for granted, but it's not as easy as you think to know your audience. But once you know it, it's gold. I mean, once you know who your audience is and you can tap into it, then that means every single penny you put towards advertising is going to work. And that's a whole different video, advertising and everything else. But we're going to stick to getting motivated to making films. We're going to stick to the topic of documentaries because I heard from at least one film buyer, that's what he's buying right now. How much? He didn't say. But generally, documentaries can sell anywhere from $5,000 all the way to $100,000, depending on how many territories they want. And they usually pay by territory. But good luck. Start making your movie. And, if you have any questions, you can definitely always email me here. I try to get back to all the messages that I get. And, if you haven't liked and subscribed the video, and if you thought this was helpful, please share it. And I'm also available if you ever want to book a conversation on the phone so that it might help you avoid some financial mistakes to making your movie. Lights, camera, action. Thanks, guys. Take care and start making that film.